So with the next generation Nintendo system or the Nintendo Switch 2 just around the corner, one of the big features that's heavily rumored for this system is that it's going to have backwards compatibility. And so that means all of the existing Nintendo Switch games that you have right now, whether they're physical or digital, you should be able to play them on the next system as well. And obviously this enables them to now have something that PlayStation has been doing with the PlayStation 5 and the PlayStation 4, which is taking older PlayStation 4 games and having upgrades for them to make them even better and more fun to play on the PlayStation 5. And Nintendo's really never had an opportunity like this, as most of the time they've just re-released their games for the new platform or have had like a remaster or a remake. So this is really their chance now to take existing games that are on the current Nintendo Switch and then bring them to the Nintendo Switch 2 with an enhanced experience to make them even better and more fun to play. And I'm assuming that this would probably have to do with having some type of update or patch that comes out for the game on the system, because they probably wouldn't just be able to have it so that you can just put the cartridge into your Switch 2 and all of a sudden like better performance is just unlocked, because I'm sure those games were developed with like having performance caps and things that were made for the current Nintendo Switch, so they'd probably need to have like an update or a patch that would come out which unlocks it to like having the Switch 2's power and all of that. But today we're going to talk about what I would feel like are some of the best games on the current Nintendo Switch that definitely would need to have some patches and deserve to get some upgrades on a next generation system. I'm also only going to talk about Nintendo Switch exclusive games because of course for third-party games like Skyrim and Mortal Kombat and stuff like that, you can find better experiences for those games on PlayStation and Xbox and PC, but instead we're going to be taking a look at games that you can only get on the current Nintendo Switch that can definitely be enhanced and upgraded for a next generation Switch 2. Now real quick before we get started, I just want to give a quick shout out to the sponsor of today's video, Metroid Japan. Metroid Japan is an online store that sells tons of Japanese products. From your favorite Japanese video games, anime, manga, and more, Metroid Japan has thousands of products from figures, toys, and plushies, and you're sure to find something that you really want. On this channel, I talk a lot about Nintendo stuff, and you can find many cool Nintendo products there, from stuff like Pokemon, Zelda, and more. But Metroid Japan was kind enough to send me a figure of the character Byleth from the Nintendo Switch game Fire Emblem Three Houses, and you can see all of the really nice details here on her legs and all of the different parts of her clothing while she uses this really cool fire sword with the sword of the creator, and it's just a very nice, highly detailed figure. So if you're interested in getting something for yourself, Metroid Japan is having a special offer for viewers of the channel where you can see the code here on screen, and for the next 2 weeks from the day that I upload this video, you can actually go on there and use this code to get $5 off anything that you order that's $80 or more. So definitely take advantage of this offer, and thank you so much again to Metroid Japan for sponsoring the video. Alright, so starting off this list at number 10 is going to be Pikmin 4. Now this game is actually claimed to be one of the best looking games on the Nintendo Switch, and it does look really gorgeous. However, I've also seen a lot of people talk about how Pikmin 4 does seem to have pretty long load times, as when you're waiting between screens and stuff, it does seem to take a while for stuff to load, and the game also does run at 30 FPS. Now the 30 FPS does seem to be pretty stable from what I've heard, as a lot of people don't really talk about that many frames dipping and stuff, but a game like this where you're also like running around the world and just moving a whole bunch of these Pikmin creatures would definitely be much more fun to play with having better fluid frame rates, like having 60 FPS, and having something like that on the Nintendo Switch 2 with Pikmin 4 getting upgraded to have faster load times between screens, but also playing the game in much more fluid 60 FPS would be a lot of fun. Now the next game is The Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening, which got a full remake from the Game Boy game as this Nintendo Switch game, but despite this cutesy art style and the colorful, vibrant colors that you see all throughout the game, this game unfortunately does have performance issues, as it was reported when it first came out that there are definitely frame rate drops and dips that you can get while playing the game. And with The Legend of Zelda Echoes of Wisdom just around the corner, a lot of previews from people who have gotten the chance to play this game early have also said that the game is suffering from the same types of issues, likely because it is using the same engine. So I would love to see these games get upgraded on the Nintendo Switch 2, maybe being able to run in 60 FPS, because it definitely doesn't seem like they would be too demanding to not be able to do that, and just not having like these performance dips and things happen would make for a much more pleasant experience. Now next up is Astral Chain, which honestly I would argue is one of the best looking games on the Nintendo Switch. It's just so stylized with having like this really big city and this nighttime aesthetic for most of it, and you've got like these really colorful characters and then all of these amazing particle effects and everything while you're playing through the combat, and it's just a lot of fun. And the game actually runs really well too. It's a very stable 30 FPS, and I think the game even runs at 1080p, but of course being an action game like this, having more frame rate is always better for an action game, and especially one like this where you are running around in the combat doing combos, and especially you've got like this Legion partner with you, which you're switching between different forms, and then you're running around to like lock them and then being able to do different combos on the enemies. Just having more frame rate is always better, and I definitely would love to see this game in 60 FPS because I think just having an action game like this in 60 FPS would just be so much fun to play. Coming in at number 7, we've got Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, and some of you guys might not even know this game, but believe it or not, this is actually a Nintendo Switch exclusive that you can't play anywhere else on PlayStation, Xbox, or PC. You can only play it on the Nintendo Switch, and it's a really cool game where you've got a ton of different Marvel characters that you can play as, and you team up and you fight against a lot of the different Marvel villains. It's a pretty cool game, but unfortunately, from the day that this game came out, a lot of people did report that there are some performance issues. The frame rate can definitely drop at points and it can get a little stuttery, but there's also times where like the entire resolution of the game can kind of fluctuate too, especially when there's a lot of enemies and things that are happening on screen. It can even go below 720p and become a 540p game in handheld mode, and especially even in docked mode, it is kind of fluctuating a lot depending on what's happening. So honestly, I would love to see this game get an upgrade on the Nintendo Switch 2, just having the frame rate get much more smoother and much more stable, but also having the resolution get upgraded so that you can actually have much more prettier visuals while playing through the game. Now, another game from Platinum Games, Bayonetta 3 came out on the Nintendo Switch, and for the most part, it seems like a lot of people did enjoy the game. It was a little bit mixed from what I heard too, but I know that a lot of people did like how crazy it got with being the part 3 to the trilogy, and it does seem like Bayonetta 3 was pretty cool, but unfortunately, it does have some issues when it comes to the performance, as people did report that there were definitely frame rate drops and stutters and things that you can get, especially when you get really into the heat of the combat, and there's a lot of things going on, and you're doing a lot of these crazy witch time effects as Bayonetta, and all of these other things that are happening on screen. With the Nintendo Switch being kind of the outdated piece of hardware that it is, it can definitely put some strain on the game and cause some performance dips and issues. So a game like this, I feel like, would definitely need to have some type of upgrade on the Nintendo Switch 2, because having just better resolution, having the resolution just get upscaled so it looks much crispier, but also just having better frame rate get unlocked, and being able to do combos with Bayonetta in 60 FPS and just having much more smoother frame rates with an action style game like this would be really, really nice. Now this is a game that hasn't even released yet, but of course, Metroid Prime 4 is going to be one of the best looking games on the Nintendo Switch. Just getting that first look trailer that we finally got after so long, you can already see how ambitious and good looking this game is on the Nintendo Switch from Retro Studios, and one of the biggest things the entire discussion has been around with the Nintendo Switch 2 even, is Metroid Prime 4 going to have some type of patch or upgrade or like a Switch 2 version that's going to come out, as a lot of people really do believe this to be the case, and honestly I feel like this game could be a great way to show off the Switch 2 hardware as well, having this game run in better frame rates and also just having better visuals and maybe much more detailed textures, and maybe even showing off the potential of the Switch 2 ray tracing that we've heard rumors about too. I feel like this game could be a really nice technological like masterpiece to really show off the Nintendo Switch 2's hardware. Being a sequel to one of the most critically acclaimed games of all time, The Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom is one of the most impressive games that you can play on the Nintendo Switch, and by having 3 entire layers of the world that you can go through, with having the Sky Realm, having the normal world of Hyrule, and also the underground depths, and being able to go seamlessly through them while also having so many different new abilities as Link, and being able to do so many cool things, this game is just a ton of fun to play. But of course, also being a game where there is a lot of action, where you're fighting off against bokoblins and going against hordes of enemies and stuff, this is definitely a game that I also feel like can benefit from having upgrades to its performance, because imagine facing off against a Lionel or something one-on-one but in buttery smooth 60 FPS while you're playing through and slashing around it and doing dodges and flurry rushes. It would just be so much more satisfying. But also there's definitely times in Tears of the Kingdom where the performance of this game can dip a little bit, especially when you're in an area with a lot of trees and enemies and things going on, and then you decide to pull up like Ultra Hand and move a lot of large objects or fuse a bunch of things together, it can definitely get a little bit kind of stuttery and you can see the performance dip. So just having a better, more upgraded version of this on the Nintendo Switch 2 would be so nice, and honestly the same thing can apply to The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild as well. Pokemon games are starting to get more expansive as we see these open zones in Pokemon Legends Arceus, a game that's going to be entirely in the city with Pokemon Legends ZA, and even Game Freak experimenting with mechanics like open world for the latest generation Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. And I wouldn't say that everything that's happened with these games in terms of performance issues and stuff is the fault of the Nintendo Switch itself, because we also have seen many games like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which are also giant open world games that can run much smoother, and while there has been a lot of like glitches and issues and stuff with like Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, at the end of the day, having more performance and power with a next-gen system can always help a developer out, and I definitely would love to see Pokemon take advantage of this too. We've already got Pokemon Legends ZA, which is going to be coming out next year in 2025, and if that's the case, then I would love to see this have like a Switch 2 version with better frame rates and visuals, and taking advantage of the next-gen hardware to just have Pokemon have a better experience. Now, by far, the games that have some of the most performance issues that I've always seen people talking about when it comes to Nintendo Switch exclusives are the Warriors games, and it really doesn't matter if it's Hyrule Warriors, or if it's Age of Calamity, or Fire Emblem Three Hopes, but of course these games involve you playing as a lot of different characters, but facing off against hordes of enemies where you're tackling them on and doing lots of combos and stuff, and because of having so many different characters that are on screen and facing off against all of them with different flashy attacks and stuff, these games have so many performance issues and stutters, especially when there's just a lot of stuff that's on screen. And we've definitely seen that when I played through Age of Calamity, which was really the only kind of Warriors game that I played. Even just playing through as Zelda, when there's a lot of enemies on screen, like you can see the screen start to get stuttery and almost like a PowerPoint at times with so many things that are happening. So by far, the games that I feel like would deserve some of the biggest upgrades are these Warriors games on the Nintendo Switch 2. Please make these games be 60 FPS, make them just be much more stable and fun to play as, because I honestly think that having just a much more smoother experience for these games could be a lot of fun, just playing as a lot of these different characters, and it would just make the gameplay so much more satisfying when you're actually beating these hordes of enemies. And finally, the games that I want to see get upgraded the most on the Nintendo Switch 2 would have to be the Xenoblade games. If you know anything about me, then you know that I'm a huge Xenoblade fan. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition is my favorite video game of all time, but just the entire series itself and the whole trilogy on the Nintendo Switch is made up of some of the most insane games when it comes to their scale and scope, and especially with the latest release being Xenoblade Chronicles 3, the world in that game is just so big with these giant, huge open zones, and you've got like 6 different characters that you can play as inside of the combat, all doing their own unique animations and arts and attacks, and the game is still somehow able to stay at a very stable frame rate, but there can still be some performance issues when stuff gets like really chaotic. But the craziest thing about this game is how it's able to be run like this by having the developers Monolith Soft use some just insane developing magic with having so many different things that are happening, because you can see something like this where you see all of these characters running through this really pretty world, but would you believe me if I said that this game isn't even running in HD right now, as Monolith Soft really has to run this game at a subpar 540p and then use a special AI upscaling algorithm to make the game appear like it's running in HD at like 720p on the Switch. Like, that's the kind of crazy stuff that they have to go through to make a game of this scale run on the Nintendo Switch, and I just want to see these developers really get access to these next generation Switch 2 power and really take full advantage of this to maybe upgrade the frame rate, make this game be 60 FPS while you're running through the world, and especially in the combat, and just having the entire world itself look much more prettier and much more better in terms of the resolution, as I just think that would be so nice. And these definitely have some of the most beautiful worlds that I've seen in terms of video games, just really gorgeous fantasy environments. And so if there's really any group of games that I feel like deserves an upgrade on the Nintendo Switch, it would have to be these Xenoblade games. But yeah, there you go guys, those are pretty much the top 10 games that I would love to see get upgrades on the Nintendo Switch 2. We don't even know if Nintendo is really even going to be doing this, but honestly, even if they charged like a small fee for them where you had to pay like $5 or something to get these upgrades for a next-gen version, I'd probably do it for some of my favorite games that I would love to play again on the Nintendo Switch 2. And honestly, they might even make more money for some people who actually held off on buying some games because they heard about the poor performance, and so now if they get resolved on the Switch 2, maybe those people will actually go out and buy those games too. So it's honestly a huge opportunity for them, and I really hope that they do take advantage of this on the next gen hardware. But yeah, if you guys enjoyed the video, definitely be sure to click that like button and also subscribe to the channel, as well as I'm definitely gonna have some more videos talking about the Switch 2, so definitely be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on that. Comment down below and let me know what you guys think about this. What are some games that you would love to see get upgrades on the Nintendo Switch 2? Do you think that Nintendo is going to take advantage of this and have some upgrade patches? What would you like to see? Definitely be sure to comment down below and let me know. But if you don't have anything to say about this, just comment your favorite emoji down below for some engagement. I would really appreciate it. Go follow me on Twitter at Astral Aero so you can be featured in videos, and also join my Discord server as well. We've got a bunch of people in there who are always talking about Pokemon and Smash Bros and Nintendo, so definitely be sure to join that. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching.